Hey, Stackers. Hope you had a great weekend. Another note from the road and an update. I'm currently in the Midwest, and you know what? I want to hang out with you. If you're in Cleveland, I will be there tomorrow, Tuesday. Head to stackybenjamins.com/meetup for all of the details. Another update there. OG is not going to make it, unfortunately, Cleveland. So you get me, but you also get prizes. You get Doug's trivia. We're going to have a great discussion. I cannot wait. stackybenjamins.com/meetup. So that is, today's the 12th. So that is the 14th, right? Which means on the 16th, I'll be in Detroit. Detroiters, we're going to have fun. We'll be at the Ferndale Project. By the way, Bookhouse Brewing is where we're at in Cleveland. Forgot to say that. Ferndale, we're going to be at the Ferndale Project in the northern suburbs of Detroit. Again, 6:30 to 8 o'clock. All these events will be the same times. Come join us in Detroit on Thursday. Grab your ticket, stackybenjamins.com/meetup. And on Friday, Kalamazoo Stacker Jim, thank goodness for Jim, got us a table for 20 on a graduation weekend. So we're going to have some fun. A little bit more informal in Kalamazoo. Still going to be a blast. But come hang out with us on Friday, stackybenjamins.com/meetup at The Hub. It's called The Hub, downtown Kalamazoo, Michigan. And then next Thursday, we're going to get Memorial Day started on the right foot. You know how? You're going to hang out with me, Boston, on Thursday, stackybenjamins.com/meetup again. And that's at Faces Brewing in Malden, north of downtown. So hope to see you there. And you know what? You're going to love today's mentor because he's going to help us make some moolah. All right, let's get the show started.
Live from Joe's mom's basement, it's the Stacking Benjamin Show. I'm Joe's mom's neighbor, Doug, and today you'll learn how to negotiate everything from nicer hotel rooms to better rates on loans with speaker and author of Ask Questions, Save Money, Make More, Matt Schulz. In our headlines, small company stocks were predicted to beat the market. And here, at nearly the halfway point of the year, they're getting spanked. So what's up? We'll ask OG. Plus, we'll answer a question from one stacker who thought, I'd better call Saul, Sehy, and OG. And then I'll share some uplifting trivia. And now the guy who keeps us all in line, it's Joe Saul-Sehy and OG.
Hey there, Stackers. Welcome to Monday. Sit back, relax. You found us. Welcome to the greatest money show on earth. We're happy you're here with us. We're going to have some fun today because you know what, Doug? We are doing three things today. Guess what we're doing?
Eating Twinkies.
No, we're going to
Ask
questions, and then we will
save money,
and then we will
make more.
Make more. It's going to be great. Matt Schulz is here. OG, how are you, man?
I'm fantastic. Thank you for asking.
I am so good. I'm so happy.
You have no future in the theater, OG.
That's right. And the daytime Emmy goes to, for the guy pretending to be happy he's here, Mr. OG. We got a great show, OG.
I'm happy to be here.
Matt Schulz is here. How great is that? Have you ever thought about actually saving money in your hotel room before?
I get why that's
Look at the quizzical look on his face.
What do you mean I could actually save money on that? You know what's funny is this show's dedicated
Marriott
to OG.
app says lowest price offered.
Right.
On the presidential suite.
That's right.
It's a good deal.
This show's dedicated to OG because OG, you're going to get so much out of this. I mean, have you ever wanted a higher credit limit?
Not really necessary.
Is that possible?
Pretty high. I know. It seems to be pretty high at the present moment, but
I just see this funny little infinity symbol on my statement.
Yes.
yeah. What does it mean when it's an 8 sideways?
Go ahead and do it. Take as much as you want. Have you ever wanted to improve your financial fitness? Have you ever tried to? You have actually fought medical bills before.
Yeah. I mean, in the manner of, on the credit report. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, you also, I remember, negotiated with the hospital. You called up and were paying for your own. Ever look for lower prices for prescription medication or a lower fee for a kid's activity? Matt Schulz going to talk
the
about
prescription medication. Yeah.
Little things, big things, all kinds of things. We got a big headline first.
Always trying to find better prices for drugs.
It's always that guy in the corner's got the best prices for drugs.
Yeah.
We got
Depends on what kind you need. I got your guy.
We got a great show, but first, you know what? This show is free, and it's free because these wonderful sponsors help us make it free. So stay tuned for them right now. Big thanks to our sponsors. Big thanks to you for hanging out with us. Let's get rolling.
Hello, darlings. And now it's time for your favorite part of the show, our Stacking Benjamin's headlines.
Our headline today comes to us from Investment News. This is an industry rag for financial advisors, financial planners, Are there any stockbrokers left in America? Is there like one guy waiting for the phone to ring?
There's some. Yeah, there's some.
One guy going someday. Does anybody charge for stock trades still?
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
There are people that
yours and my former firm does.
They still charge. Unbelievable.
Yeah, like $24 or something.
I placed a stock trade yesterday on Schwab. I was like, are they going to charge me for this? Nope.
What did you sell?
I actually bought, and it was the most BS thing. I took $500. I know, big money, right? I took $500 because I saw that the CEO of a firm was going like all in on buying stock in her company. And I'm the guy that says, do your research, do all kinds of stuff. This is the Rivian, Doug. This is my Rivian. I bought Lumen. I might as well tell people I bought Lumen.
I thought you meant you bought a firm like that. Isn't that one of those payment option?
Well, because the yeah, that's right. I bought a firm. I bought it with Klarna.
Bought a firm with Klarna.
I bought as much.
You bought a penny stock?
I did. It's $1.60. I was like, when Doug said you bought the firm, I'm like, well, for $1.60 a share, I pretty much did. $500. Joe, you own Lumen. You own the entire company. I'd like to say hello to all my employees.
There's a story that I heard. My brother works in the finance space also, and he worked at a stock brokerage firm years ago. And there was a guy who was buying up these penny stocks, of this company because he would kind of day trade it. It would be, buy it for $1, he'd sell it for $1.10. Woohoo! And so he just kept on making bigger and bigger bets, right? He started with $500, then went to 5,000 and 50,000. And so he was doing these huge trades. And then he went to go do the trade and to sell. And they're like, oh, you can't trade this. And he said, well,
oh,
why not? Because he had accumulated 10% of the company.
Oh my God.
So he was now a whatever it's called,
a
shareholder of record.
Yeah, he was like a legit person that had to like disclose all this stuff with the SEC and get prior approval to sell it and all this other sort of stuff. And it was like to acquire 10% of the company was like $55,000 or something. It was some insignificant dollar amount, like in the grand scheme of things in terms of investing, not that 50 grand is not a lot of money, but it was relatively small compared to what you would think it would cost.
So he had to do a press release first and give 2 weeks notice that he was selling.
Steve,
basically, it was just like, what? What do you mean? How do I get out of this? They're like, yeah, we don't even know what to do with this anymore. You're gonna have to get a lawyer and call the corporate counsel.
He had to let all the GameStop bros front run him.
Probably had to hire a counsel first.
Had to put it on Reddit that he was going to sell. That'd be good. Maybe he could get a.
For the record, let's just be clear with Joe's stock picking. You are not advising that other people follow in your footsteps here.
I am not. No.
Okay.
By the way, that is a dumb trade. I looked at the financials. The financials look awful. Just looked at the CEO, and she that same day was buying a bunch, and I was like, if she's buying, I'm buying.
When it's down 90% in the last 2 years,
what could possibly go wrong?
I'm like, go up from here.
Buy the dip,
maybe.
If Doug can buy Rivian, $1.60. I mean, come on, what could go wrong?
I'm going to do the same thing. Hold on, let me do it. Psych.
This is how dumb we can all be, people. This is what we mean about your money. But you know what? There's a reason I bring this up, though, guys, which is because this piece of investment news is all about this rally that was going to happen. You talk about penny stocks, OG, a rally that was going to happen with small companies this year, right? Everybody had all these year-end predictions that small cap stocks were going to outperform in 2024. And Greg Greenberg writes his piece saying, whatever happened to that small cap rally? We are almost halfway through the year, OG. And there is no small cap rally yet. Greg writes, okay, so maybe small caps won't get their day in the sun, at least not yet. Despite all the year-end predictions, small cap stocks outperform in 2024. The Russell 2000 index has gained 1%, while the S&P is up 8% as we record this.
I was going to say, when was this written?
This was written 4 days before we record this.
Okay.
Why, we have a massive rally in the last 4 days?
I think this is an interesting piece of this because the answer is yes. In the last week or so, small companies have gone up a lot relative to that previous number. You said they were up 1% or something for the year. Now they're up 5%.
There's a reason I wanted to bring this up because last week we did this whole thing about when do you get more scientific about your asset allocation with your retirement. Go back and listen to Wednesday's episode last week, everybody, and you'll get all that because, at some point you want to get closer to the efficient frontier. And that means, OG, maybe adding things like small cap into your portfolio, getting more diversified, doing a better job of your diversification. And you may own small cap, but you know what's been happening all year so far already. You've got all kinds of, speaking of finance pros, you got all kinds of finance pros going, oh, small cap's getting killed. So I'm going to go ahead and put that in the S&P instead. Forget it. I don't like small cap. That's horrible. I think you're asking for it, aren't you? If you bail on small caps here 5 months into the year.
Well, I mean, the thing is that you don't know when or how much or for how long different asset classes are going to perform relative to other asset classes. You could say the same thing about international stocks or emerging market countries or big companies, small companies, the whole, real estate, the whole gambit. I mean, real estate's down for the year, but sometimes it's not. It's just the whole idea of being diversified is that you own everything and get to have all of the returns. It just happens in a random order. Like the order of the asset classes return is going to be different than what you expect it to be. And I'll give you an example of this that I remember from some years ago. Statistically, small companies should do better than big ones. And the reason for that is if you just kind of look at the big wide extremes, so you take like a big company like Apple or Coca-Cola, and you take a really, really, really small company like the ice cream
Lumen.
shop on the store.
Like Lumen, a really well-run company like Lumen.
I was going to say even smaller company like an ice cream store, right?
Oh.
And if you go to the ice cream place and the guy who runs the ice cream store says, I would like for you to invest in my business, and you're seriously considering it because you like a bunch of ice cream. And he says, I can get you, I feel like we can grow at about 8 or 9 or 10% a year. I think this would be pretty good. If you're a prudent investor, you look at that and go, wait a second, why would I try to get 8 or 9 or 10% in this really teeny tiny micro business of an ice cream shop on the corner? And I can get 8 or 9 or 10% in Apple or in the S&P 500, the biggest companies in the world, which are run more professionally and have all the smartest people in the world that work for those places and they give you 8 or 10. So in order to be interested in that investment, you need to have a better return potential. You need him to say, I think we can grow this thing at 40% or 30% or 20%. And that is, maybe could be the level at which you'd go, all right, I've got a higher volatility. I've got a higher bounce rate. There's a chance I can get 20 or a chance I can get 0. I'll take that because it's a higher opportunity versus, 8, 9, or 10 in the big companies. So smaller companies have to perform better because they're smaller. So over time, that's what should happen. But the reality is that it happens in random periods of time. And we can't predict when those things are going to happen in advance. And so I'll take you back to 2016. So November 1st.
You got the thing? Take us back. Where's the button?
The Wayback Machine?
Yes. Take us back to 2016. Okay, it's 2016, OG.
Or maybe 2015. But, sorry.
Even further back.
Somewhere in there. 2 elections ago, right before the first Trump election. Yeah, so it would have been 2016. If you looked on November 1st, or let's say 5-year period ending October 31, 2016, and compared small companies to big companies during that period of time, you would see that big companies beat small companies over that 5-year period. After the election, so go from election day through Christmas. So what is that, a 6-ish week, 7-ish week period of time?
Yeah.
If then you said, all right, now let me look at small companies against big companies for the last 5 years. Small companies beat big companies.
Over the 5-year period.
Over the 5-year period. So in 6 weeks, the 5 years of underperformance was erased and beaten in that 6-week window.
This is why you don't play this game.
Yeah. And then if you go like, well, all right, by the time you got your statement, December 31st, that went, holy cow, look at how great small companies are. That's when that stopped. That was over at that point. You missed it. It was a 6-week window. The same thing happened with emerging markets in 2017 to 2018. 2017 was an awful year for emerging markets. 2018 were, they were the number 1 asset class in the world. So it's a game you just can't play, and you have to recognize what the impact is going to be. And so when you look at your investment accounts, and if you're diversified, you see, I've got big companies, I've got small, I've got international. Your money's not going to track what the index says. You can't look at your portfolio and say, I'm up X dollars. Why am I not the same as Microsoft? Why am I not the same as the S&P? Why am I not the same as the NASDAQ? Because your money's not the same as that. You have a diversification. And over a period of time, whether it's 5 years or 10 years or whatever, you'll be rewarded with that, or you should be rewarded with that diversification, because eventually different asset classes will outperform others. It just doesn't make sense that everything is large US tech from now until the end of time. I think we can all agree that that's probably not going to be the case.
I just can't believe, Doug, that he was telling me that the greatest minds on earth are at Apple and not the local ice cream shop. Like, some engineer at Apple is smarter than the guy that's asking me if I want Magic Shell, that amazing thing called Magic Shell, on my soft serve twist cone.
You don't know. You don't even know.
You don't know.
That guy could be. He could invent the new Magic Shell.
I think Magic Shell is the gift that keeps on giving.
I like it.
I don't know. I got an issue with Magic Shell.
Oh, I love Magic Shell.
Well,
you can't find it anymore.
No, I know it, probably because it's largely polymers that you're eating.
It's plastic.
We're about to find out. Kids that grew up in the 70s and 80s, if you ate Magic Shell,
the myth that, if you swallow your gum, it just stays there forever and it never digests. No. It's Magic Shell. It's like those horrible Camp Lejeune ambulance chaser commercials you see all over the place. Did you have Magic Shell as a kid? My issue is Magic Shell's cool at first, but then the ice cream starts melting inside the Magic Shell, and then it's leaking out in little spots, and it's just a battle.
That's why you got to devour the Magic Shell first, very quickly. There's a strategy to this whole thing, Doug, that you're missing. Back on small caps for just a second longer.
Right,
yeah, I mean, the Magic Shell thing.
I was going to move on to Klondike bars, but if we need to go back to finance.
Klondike. Yeah, you got to devour those, right? Because it's the same thing. They start leaking out. Ellen Hazen, chief market strategist at FL Putnam, is talking about how small caps, she thinks are going to be dead for a while. And she's got all these reasons. But this is what she says. When the time comes, it's going to be big. Hazen says she doesn't get out of small caps because when they go, to your point. And these more volatile asset classes that you put in your recipe, you can't choose the time. You can't choose the time, can't choose the day, because you're going to regret it, because there's all kinds of reasons why. Oh, it's not performing. And then you wake up the next day and it performed and you're not there. We will link to this and more about asset allocation, proper diversification, and how to make sure you sit on your hands when it comes to your asset classes that aren't performing in your portfolio. Actually means your portfolio is working the way it should, at the 201, which is our newsletter that comes out every Tuesday and Thursday. Always free, always a great read. Hope you can join us over there. You'll also get details about our meetups. In fact, as we record this, tomorrow in Cleveland, I will be at Bookhouse Brewing in Cleveland. Head to stackingbenjamins.com/meetup. If you're anywhere near Detroit on Thursday, you can see Doug and I. If you're in Kalamazoo on Friday, we'll be at the Hub. Just found that out. We'll be there on Friday. And then the following Thursday, we'll be at Faces Brewing in Malden. You know where Malden is, Doug? I don't know where Malden is, but it's somewhere near Boston.
It's where Carl's from.
Carl Malden. Duh, of course. Yes. That's for our over 50 audience. Shout out to our over 50 audience. Who knows who Carl Malden is?
That's even a distant memory for the over 50 audience.
Was he like Diners Club or American Express?
I think he was. That's a great call. I think it might have been American Express.
Might have been American
Wearing
Express.
A fedora, all
yes.
Stern.
Very stern.
OG look like a slapstick comedian.
Exactly. Yes. Making OG look very handsome too, by the way. Carl Malden, not a great looking guy, but
that was so well executed. I love it.
Coming up next, Matt Schulz is going to help us save some money. He's going to help us do 3 things, OG. He's going to teach you how to
fight and read the news. I've already done 2 of those today, so what's the third going to be?
Well, I had 3 different ones, but those are good. Matt's going to teach us to ask questions, save money, and make more. Matt Schulz is the chief credit analyst at LendingTree, and he's got this great new book out where he goes over so many ideas. We're not going to talk much about his book. We're actually going to dive in and we're going to give you a bunch of ideas from the book, as many as we can, in about 20 minutes so that you can ask questions, save money, make more. You want a cheaper hotel room? You want maybe to get upgraded on the next flight? You want lower interest rates on your credit cards, on your mortgage? Even we're going to talk about that and more. But first, Doug, you've got an amazing trivia question people are going to be talking about for minutes after you finish it.
It's pretty optimistic, Joe. Hey there, stackers. I'm Joe's mom's neighbor, Doug. Memorial Day is just 2 weeks away, and I decided I'm finally going to enter a float in this year's Texarkana Parade. I wanted to do that for years. You know that. I've been talking about it forever, but I hate to miss out on catching all that candy they throw out all the time. I'm really good at catching, so it might be hard to suddenly become a pitcher. Heck, last year I caught enough to get me all the way to the 4th of July parade. But I've come up with a brilliant idea to make sure I don't miss out on candy while I'm in the parade this year. I'm going to line the end of my driveway with buckets. And then I drive past, I tell everybody on my float, hey, throw all our candy into those buckets. Probably should maybe even hire a local kid to keep an eye on the buckets till I get home. That's a pretty good idea too. Anyway, today's trivia question is, this year the U.S. military received the highest pay raise they've had in decades. How much are their wages increasing this year? Is it A, 4.6%, 2, 5.2%, or D, 7%? I'll be back right after I recruit some neighborhood kids to ride on the float with me. Hey there, stackers. I'm Candy Collector and soon-to-be winner of Best Float, Joe's mom's neighbor, Doug. I can't wait for everyone to see me driving my El Camino in the parade. And to keep it on theme, I'm going to dress as Uncle Sam. I just hope it's not too sexy for people to kind of get the reference. That's a problem I run into quite a bit. Today's trivia question is, this year the U.S. military received the highest pay raise they've had in decades. How much was it? Well, the options I gave you were A, 4.6%, B, 5.2%, or trace, maybe 7%. The answer? The last highest pay raise for U.S. service members was a 6.9% increase issued in 2002. This year, the military received its most significant pay raise in over 2 decades at 5.2%. That bump will raise wages between $1,100 and $10,000 a year, depending on the service member's rank. And now, here to help you talk your way into higher savings and pay, it's today's mentor, Matt Schulz.
All right, stackers, you guys ready to save some serious money? Maybe upgrade some experiences? Well, the man who's going to do that, no pressure, Matt Schulz in the basement. How are you, man?
I'm doing great. Thanks for having me.
I got to tell you what I like. The way that you begin this project, Matt, is you kind of say, you're kind of like, you know what? I'm not a natural born negotiator, and you don't have to be either. I mean, that filled me full of confidence. A guy who calls himself not a natural born negotiator teaching me how to negotiate. How did you decide, of all people then, to create a book to negotiate for better stuff?
Well, it's funny. I'm a guy whose dad could walk into a room and know everybody's life story within about 5 minutes. And I'm a guy who, if I'm in a room of even like friends that I know pretty well, I'm not necessarily the guy who's going to raise his hand and speak up and that sort of thing. It's just not really me. I mean, my job is to go on camera and do interviews and all that sort of stuff, but that's a different animal. So in the course of doing these interviews, basically, I've done a ton of them about the fact that 3 out of every 4 people who ask for a lower interest rate on their credit card get one, but hardly anyone ever asks. And I got so much reaction over and over and over again from podcasters, TV folks, journalists, whatever, that I decided that that was going to kind of be a good theme to approach if I were to ever write a book. And as I wrote the book, I ended up speaking with 110, 120 people. And to a degree, it ended up becoming not just building the book, but honestly, a little bit of a self-exploration and a little bit of a regular therapy session for me to figure out how to do some of these things. And
I feel like Matt, you put yourself out there as a guinea pig on some of these and go, let's just try it and see what happens.
yeah, no question. There are some that I'm certainly not expert on when I started writing the book, and some of these that I've been talking about forever. So the hope was to really make the book as useful as possible, but also just to kind of anticipate people's objections to these things and give them the confidence and the belief that they can do them.
Well, we'll talk about the book itself later, but you've been nice enough to say, you know what, let's take as many of these as we can do in our regularly allotted time and see if we can save people some money. Then if they like it, go out and buy the rest. But let's begin here because, as you know, Matt, this is all about confidence.
Yeah.
And what I like that you do in this project is you help us build our confidence by going, you know what, you might think you're not a good negotiator, but you negotiate more often than you think than you do. You actually are a better negotiator than you think. Tell us, build our confidence, Matt. How are we better at negotiating than we think we are?
You're better at negotiating than you think you are because you do it all the time in life, even if you don't recognize that you're doing it, and even if the stakes really aren't that high. Anybody with a roommate or a partner has probably had a conversation about what to set the thermostat at in your house. And that's negotiation, right? Any parent has probably had a conversation about who's taking what day in the carpool to take the kids to soccer practice, or things like when to have that meeting at work. All of this sort of stuff that doesn't necessarily sound like it equates to negotiating a job promotion or haggling over medical bills. All of this stuff matters. And it's really, if you view it kind of in a sports kind of vein, it's really about kind of getting your reps in and realizing that for a lot of us, we've gotten a lot more of these reps in already than we realize, and that we should feel a little better about ourselves going into this kind of stuff.
Well, I think part of it, Matt, is the way we frame negotiation. Like we think, okay, I'm negotiating against Matt. I got to make him pay. I got to get every last dollar.
Yeah.
And you even reset that. You're like, whoa, 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 whoa. I mean, the thermostat is an example. Everybody to some degree has got to be happy. Let's reset for you what negotiation truly looks like and what it's not.
Yeah, it looks good in the movies where everybody is like really hardcore and alpha and banging on tables and stuff like that. But when negotiations go really well and when they leave everybody happy is when it's a win-win. So you go into a negotiation not trying to completely take advantage of the person next to you. You're trying to go into it making it where everybody's going to be happy at the end. And a kind of a classic example is if you are negotiating with a contractor or a handyman or somebody like that, and you say, can you give me a little bit of a lower rate? And if you do, I'll make sure to tell my friends about you, to give you a good review online, that sort of thing. So there's so many examples of things that you can do to help the other person when they are trying to help you. And it's just a really good mindset to have going in.
Yeah, one of my favorite parts of your introduction here is you're like, listen, yelling at the customer service rep gets nobody anywhere. Like that. I've seen people do that to restaurant waiters and it's just like, come on, we all got to win.
Yeah.
Let's dive into some of the painful places first, and then we'll give people more experience. I want to start off with credit cards. You talked about maybe a lower rate on our credit card. Let's walk people through that. How do I successfully negotiate a lower rate on my credit card?
It absolutely can happen. And like I said, about 3 out of every 4 people who ask for a lower interest rate on their credit card get one. And the average reduction the last time we did that survey at Lending Tree was about 6 percentage points. So it's like going from 25% to 19% on your credit card. It's a really big deal. It can save you a lot of money. And the best way to do it is to come in armed with some information and having done some legwork. So it's important, for one, to know generally what kind of credit you have, because if you have really bad credit, and you go in asking for the best possible rate on that credit card, you're probably going to be disappointed. But you can kind of adjust your expectations that way. The other thing that you can do once you've kind of figured that out is look at other offers that you might find, whether it's on the credit card issuer website for maybe the actual card that you have. You can see what new interest rates they're offering new applicants, or you can look at solicitations that might have come in your snail mail or email or things like that to basically get an idea of offers that you know that you'll qualify for. Then you can pick up the phone and say, hey, I've used your card for a long time. I like it. I've never missed a payment, but I've seen offers out there that I can get 19% on this interest rate, but mine right now is 25. Is there any way that you can match? And there's a really good chance that they will work with you. And at a minimum, they're almost always going to listen.
And you say that if they don't accept right away, there still might be some recourse.
Yeah, the fact is that sometimes the person you're talking to has had a really rough day and they've been yelled at more often than a customer service rep usually gets yelled at. And it may,
and they're kind of now taking it out on you, then, is what you're saying.
oh yeah,
Inadvertently.
it certainly can happen. I mean, if you get a hold of the wrong person who's just had a bad day or who just isn't feeling it that day, and you don't get your way, wait a day or two and just try again and try and see if you get a little more receptive customer service rep. There's no guarantee that that'll work out, but it certainly can.
Let's go to the next thing. Our mortgage, our rent payment. Those are big things in life. Sometimes we lose our job. We've seen some people in the tech sector, especially news as we're recording this. Microsoft just closed up some of their studios for their video game divisions, wow, as an example. So you've got some people having hard times, but you say if you have hard times, we can call and maybe get a payment or two skipped.
Yeah, this is a really important thing. And it's certainly something that we learned a lot about during the pandemic when so many people were unemployed so quickly. Lenders tend to have these things called hardship programs, which are basically breaks that they give to people who are going through short-term financial rough patches. And it might be extending their credit limit, temporarily lowering their interest rate, allowing them to skip a payment, things like that. You're not going to get these breaks permanently necessarily, but if you call and you're upfront with them and you kind of make yourself vulnerable and say, hey, I'm going through this, I want to get your money, but it's a tough time right now, there's a good chance that your lender is going to work with you because they know that if they are good to you during rough times, you're going to spend more with them during the good times. So it's ultimately in their best interest to keep you happy.
It seems like, especially, I've seen more programs now, and tell me if this is true or not. It might not be true. It might just be anecdotal, sure, but it feels like after COVID, like a lot of companies put systems in place because of so many people during COVID that experienced rough times. Is this truly what's happening or not?
Well, a lot of those systems were already in place before COVID. I think COVID just shined a big light on the fact that those exist. Because it really, again, like, and it really is about kind of understanding how banks, lenders, any business really views people in terms of their lifetime value. So how much money they can make off of them over time. And banks understand that by giving you a break when things are rough, or waiving that $40 late fee, or a gym giving you a logo T-shirt, those little things are basically rounding errors at best for those companies, but they make a big difference to you, make you feel really good, and keep you as a happy customer. So it's worth them doing it.
Let's do one more thing, tell people who might be struggling, and this is a good one, especially for our older stackers. You've got this way to maybe get a lower price on prescriptions. How do we go about the prescription game?
Well, the prescription one it's not necessarily a guarantee that this works, but it's a really simple question that is really easy to ask and can really be worth your time. So the question is, what is the cash price for this prescription? And if you ask any pharmacist, whether a chain store or a small independent place, they're going to know the answer or be able to find that answer for you. And what that means is essentially, what's the cost of this prescription if I pay for it out of pocket instead of using my insurance? And it doesn't always save you to use the cash price, but sometimes if you avoid using insurance and some of the markups that come with insurance and all the middlemen that are involved, sometimes it can actually be cheaper, but you won't necessarily know until you ask. And the other important thing with the whole cash price thing is it doesn't mean that you actually have to pay them with dollar bills. It's just a way of saying that you want to pay without using your insurance.
It's so funny because I just get done reading this as I'm prepping for this interview. A friend I know actually did this, walked in and asked, and the particular prescription, I don't remember which brand it was. And this is at a CVS, everybody. The difference was, to your point, Matt, for this particular subscription, so much less. It blew him away how much less. So he's like, I'm paying out of pocket.
Yeah, again, it's really the classic example of it doesn't hurt to ask. I mean, there's no guarantee that it'll be any cheaper, but you won't know unless you actually ask the question. And any pharmacist worth anything is going to respond, is going to be happy to help you with that, because ultimately the pharmacist works for that store that you're going into. So they want to keep you a happy customer, and it's in their interest to give you the right information, help you save money, because then you come back.
I hope, Stackers, the thing that you're all hearing from Matt right now is this resounding theme of you just have to ask. And I'm that guy, Matt, like most of you, that are just, I'm afraid to ask. I'm like, why do I deserve special treatment? Like, why would I? But man, the resounding theme you're saying over and over, just ask. Like you're already at no.
Yeah. And it really is about just being confident enough to ask and understanding that the worst thing that happens is that they say no, generally speaking. And if they say yes, or if they give you your way, then amazing things can happen. And it's something that some people are born with the ability to feel confident and do these things really well and easily, but most of us aren't. And it really is about getting your reps in, doing it as many times as you can. I mean, Steph Curry takes 500 shots a day, and he's the best he's the best shooter in the history of the NBA. Even the best folks still work, still practice, put their time in, and this is how you get better at things, whether it's shooting a three-pointer or asking for help from a business.
Man, I had one of the worst jobs you could have in college. We called on behalf of Michigan State University. We called, and everybody that's graduated from college knows where I'm going with this. I was one of those people that would call alumni and ask them for money.
Oh, yeah.
Right. So you can imagine how that goes. But we had a guy, and I ended up, I was okay at it, good enough that I ended up training other people. But in the case of training other people, I looked at our sample size of all the students that work for us. And Matt, to your point, we would get this thing that would pop up on our screen that would say, ask for $100, ask for $250, ask for $500, ask for $1,000. And whenever it said ask for $1,000, we would get really nervous because this is like 1994, 93. Yeah. And in 1993, so doing inflation, that's like asking somebody for about $2,500 today, right? So pretty nervous as a student to ask anybody for $2,500. We had this guy, Mark Brower. I'll shout out to Mark. Mark didn't care what it said on the screen, Matt. He asked everybody for $1,000. And I asked him, I said, why would you do that? He goes, because then when the $1,000 popped up, I can always go lower. So if it says $100, I can always go down to 100, but I don't want to be nervous when the $1,000 opportunity hits. And I got to tell you, this guy raised more money for Michigan State University than anybody ever saw. And it was the same thing you talked about Seth Curry. He just got the reps.
Yeah.
You just continually get asked. It was amazing.
Well, and with that, I can see the argument of it would be easier for people to say, well, no, I can't do 1,000, but would you take 250? And you're already ahead of the game, right? I mean, it's easier for people to negotiate down. They feel more comfortable, especially when you're talking about donations and stuff like that, it's a whole other thing to kind of take the escalator up.
Well, let's have some fun here. We help people save some money that might be in need. We help you lower your cost and maybe skip a payment or two, which is very valuable. But let's go the other side, Matt. Let's go the fun side. I'm at the hotel. I got a parking lot view. I'm on the 3rd floor. Man, I'd appreciate a pool view, maybe a higher floor. You say that if you do this right, maybe you can get this done too.
Yeah, this is certainly about seasonality. I mean, if you are trying to get a hotel room near Rockefeller Center when they're putting up the Christmas tree at Christmas time, or I use the example of Tuscaloosa, Alabama on Alabama football game day. Probably not going to be a lot of hotels around. But no, the truth is that just by asking nicely and maybe doing your homework a little bit beforehand, a lot of times you can get your way. And it really isn't about much more than being nice and recognizing that the person on the other side of the counter, again, probably been yelled at 10 times that day. And you can kind of separate yourself a little bit by just being nice. And one of the other really good things that you can do is do a little bit of homework where maybe you look in the app or you look online and you find the name of a specific type of room, because different hotel chains call different rooms different things. And if you say, hey, I'm in town for my class reunion or my sister's getting married or something like that, and I'd really love to have the Deluxe King Corner Suite, and ask specifically like that, it can show them a little bit that you've done your homework and you're not just asking randomly, and that can help you a little bit too.
And you're sharing a little bit about the occasion. I think that's probably important as well.
Yes. Any time that you can share an occasion and you can say, hey, it would really make an amazing event even more special if I could have a little bit more room. That can be a useful thing too. And also, especially if you are doing like a solemn occasion, like you're in town for a funeral or something like that, that sort of stuff can help you maybe connect a little bit with the person behind the checkout counter, and they may be willing to help you out a little bit to make a tough time a little easier on you.
Any of this work to get a sexier rental car?
It certainly can. Again, it really depends on timing and seasonality. But one of the things that you can do to kind of improve your odds of getting that upgraded rental car is to rent basically the cheapest car that's on the lot, because most people, that's what they do, because they just want to get their rental car, they want to get out and get moving, and they don't want to spend a ton of money on it. So that cheapest car is probably the one that is the most likely to already be booked up or be out of the lot already. So if that car isn't available, they automatically would have to upgrade you, and that can be a useful way to go about it too.
That's fabulous. You know what, guys? We just scratched the surface. Matt talks about credit and debt, healthcare, housing, shopping, travel, work, relationships. And what I also love that you did today was you paid it forward, and your epilogue is all about paying it forward for people. The book is Ask Questions, Save Money, Make More. It's out now. People can get it everywhere, right?
Absolutely. Yep.
It is so great speaking with you again. Thank you for being such a mentor for us today. I really appreciate it.
Yeah, thanks for having me in the basement. This was fun.
Hey, this is John in Seattle. And when I'm not telling terrible dad jokes to anyone who will listen, I'm stacking Benjamins.
Huge thanks to Matt for bringing it. Man, if anybody can teach us to, Doug, what do you teach us to do?
Ask questions, save money, make more.
Oh, yeah. Ask questions.
Okay, 3 times. Ask
money.
questions, save money, make more. Ask questions, save money, make more. How many times are we going to do this?
It's great. As long as it takes, man. You got to learn to save some money. I'm starting to float in your ass. Just, why do you think you're here, Doug? All these years, you think you would have listened and learned something, but she makes us have you down here in the basement again. It's her version of the woodshed.
Just here for the coffee and donuts.
Apparently, for something.
Fresh out of donuts.
You know what I'm here for? I'm here because somebody said, hey, I should call Saul-Sehy, N-O-G, mostly OG though. had to, if you would think about it.
I should call Joe so he can serve the question
That's
up
right.
to OG.
So I can pivot and go, I don't know. Let's ask that guy. Head to stackingbenjamins.com/voicemail. I actually got that right this week. stackingbenjamins.com/voicemail. And you too can ask OG a question. You can pinch yourself after OG answers your question, which he is about to do today. Four. He's about to do it to an amazing stacker. It's not good. About to do it four.
I'm sure some of our people have felt that way after they heard the answer.
What did he do to me?
I just got OG'd.
Is that like a badge of honor? I think it would be a badge of honor, wouldn't it? I feel so good. OG yelled at me. Today, we're going to take a call for help from Patrick. Hey, Patrick.
Hi, Joe, OG, and Joe's mom's neighbor's dog. With interest rates the way they are, still pretty high for short-term saving goals, I am wondering a little bit of where to put the money, but not the traditional questions about which bank. When I go to depositaccounts.com, the rates there are slightly higher than the interest rate I'm already getting at my credit union. However, when I look at the interest rate at Vanguard for the settlement fund, which is automatically invested in their federal money market fund, it's higher than the highest rate I see at depositaccounts.com. So I'm wondering if my short-term cash should be stored in a traditional high-yield savings, or if I can put that in Vanguard's settlement fund and get that money market fund rate that's higher than the traditional bank interest rates. Are there any downsides to putting it in the money market fund? Thanks.
Patrick, I love this nerdy question because, as you have seen, the Vanguard settlement account is not a traditional high yield savings account. OG, any difference? If he's already at Vanguard, why doesn't he just chuck it into the settlement account and out earn high yield savings accounts?
Yeah, I mean, this is going to be true at every level, whether it's, interest rates are at 5% and your money market gets you 5.2, or interest rates at the bank are 3 and money market gets you 3.13. Like, it's always going to be a little bit more. And back to our discussion at the very beginning of this about big companies and small companies, we should be able to kind of put this together as to why. If somebody is giving you a better return for something, or promising a better return, I should say, there has to be some strings attached to it, right? Because the cost of money is the same for Vanguard as it is for, Bank of America, right? And so you look at this and you just kind of peel away layers of the onion and try to figure out why that is. There's a little bit more risk, hence the difference between 5.1 in your savings account and 5.3 in the Vanguard account. That's why you get a smidge more, is because there's a smidge more risk. Most people don't remember this. Joe, you will. Doug, maybe, depending on how tuned in you were at the time. The 2007-2008 recession was the first time, and near as I know, the only time, that money market funds were not available at $1 a share. So when you buy a money market fund, you're buying a mutual fund that's made up of federal short-term, very short-term days and maybe a week's long worth of federal short-term lending. And the price of that mutual fund is $1 a share. And every month they give you some dividends or some interest, and life goes on. In 2008, when recession happened, a lot of those money market funds decided their new price was 97 cents a share. Beyond that, not only was it 97 cents a share, they also went, and come see us at Christmas for you.
Yeah.
which was another major issue.
What?
I mean, Joe, you were there, obviously. Doug, you might have had some of this as well as a consumer, but the anxiety and stress that came with, the profound amount of anxiety and stress that came with, sorry, there's no cash available. No, it says right here on my statement, I have $100,000. I just lost my job. Mortgage is due. I gotta take 2,000 out. We're sorry. We're not processing withdrawals right now. It was a once in a generation probably situation. And I think they've remedied the behind the scenes of how to make sure that, or at least assume, hopefully, that doesn't happen. We've seen banks fail since then, and there's a short-term cash flow issue, but eventually everybody's made whole, generally speaking. So it's probably a little concern, but not a lot. So you just have to decide if that's something that's worth it to you, that extra 0.2% or 0.3 or whatever that number is, plus all the time and energy and effort to open a new account, transfer the money, and so on and so forth. I know that's not a lot, but there's some stuff there. And if you're not already in a relationship with that place, this is why when we look at those savings account rates at deposit accounts, you're like, oh, this place, I'm getting 4.9, this place is getting 5.1. It's like, well, does it make sense to move? Because it takes a lot of time and energy to open a new account, transfer your money, make sure it's there, get the login, sync it with all your stuff. There's some stress that goes with that. It doesn't necessarily mean it's a lot, but you have to look at what the return is. I mean, if you're talking about a 0.2% return and you've got 20 grand, you're talking about $40 over the course of a year. Is it worth $3 a month of extra interest to you to do that? Now, if you already have a relationship at Vanguard, you already have money at Vanguard, you already have it set up, linked to your bank account, and you're like, I can just boom, 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 click 3 things and have this there. Sure, fine. But also remember, it's not going to be as easy to access. It will take an extra day or 2 days to get the money back to your bank account. So there's a reason why it's like a little bit more return. And that return means there's got to be something else tied to it. If somebody tells you, yeah, I can get you 10%, and everybody else is saying we can get you 5%.
There's a reason.
That you got to have your spidey sense tingling a little bit, going, well, what's the catch? Why am I getting 10 here and 5 there? Like, there's got to be some sort of give me a gotcha, and I'm trying to figure out what that is. So with cash, it's just liquidity and the potential for it not being there. With FDIC insurance, you are guaranteed by the government your money to be there. Vanguard's pretty sure it's going to be there. There's just a slight difference there. They're pretty sure. They're pretty confident. They've been in business a long time. And to be fair, a lot of those people that had those 97-cent money market fund things, were they to have waited long enough, they went back to $1. If they didn't panic out, most people were made whole on the back end of that. But if you lost your job and your mortgage was due and you couldn't access your cash, you didn't care what the dollar amount was. You were like, give me 50 cents a share. I just need the money. And it was like, yeah, sorry, there's none available right now. Come back tomorrow.
That was a scary time for people that needed cash.
It was a scary time for
right.
everybody.
You couldn't remember. Not only could you not get your cash, but if you had lines of credit open, the bank was writing you going, yeah, you don't have that credit anymore. We're cutting your credit.
I don't even know that they were writing you. I think they were just doing it. And you found out they couldn't keep up with how fast they were doing that.
So you're like, oh my God, I can't get my money. I'll just take out a loan, which is what people have told me why they don't keep an emergency fund. They're like, I'll just take out a loan. Yeah. In 2008, you weren't doing that. You were not doing that because the bank was like,
and not only were you not doing that, but you were swiping your credit card, to your point, at the grocery store, and it came back declined because they changed your credit limit from $2,500 to $500.
To $1 more than you'd already put on it. Yeah.
or whatever the limit is, whatever your current balance is, $1,117 is now $1,118. You can get a pack of gum.
So for that reason, I like the little bit lower interest rate because just freedom from worry, OG. And to your point, who cares? I mean, out of all the financial decisions you're going to make, your job is to keep mind share so you can be like water, as David Allen, the organizational guru, says. You want your brain to be like water, where it just flows wherever the hot thing is that you really want to think about today, versus being in that little muddy, stream going in circles, doing nothing. If I'm worried about...
Is that also not water? Mud?
It is, but you want to be like good moving water.
It's like a slurry.
Yes. You want to be like a nice, healthy flow. Like my friend, the urologist, Todd, says.
Now we're a podcast about that now?
Welcome to the Healthy Flow podcast. Yes.
Nice segue into prostate health.
Welcome to Old Guys Talking Money podcast. Oh, yeah.
I mean, you can take this another step further also and just say, well, why wouldn't I have a 3-month CD that pays 5.5? Or go buy my own T-bills or treasury notes on the Treasury Direct website. And like, there's all these ways to like add 0.1,
right,
0.2, 0.3.
Pretty soon you're like, why don't I just throw it all in Lumen stock?
Yeah, exactly.
That's it.
All it has to do is go from $1.10 to $1.15, and I made 5%. Boom.
Just
suck on that, losers.
Again, everybody.
Small cap dorks.
Horrible idea.
But maybe it's
Suck it,
not.
small cap dorks.
But maybe it's not. If you guys want to jump in and make my day.
And pump and dump. Is that what you're doing right now? Is this a pump
That's
and dump?
exactly what I'm doing. The SEC's on to me.
Did you just watch the movie Boiler Room a couple of nights ago?
I know.
We have it on good authority that
the
both
new Roaring Kitty.
both of your listeners just bought 4 shares of Lumen stock because you were trying to get out. That's great. There's another reason for this, OG, which is, my brother, when he would eat dinner, he did not like his foods touching each other. I mean, I was like, dude, it's all going to the same place. Who cares? Like, stir it all up. But he did not like his steak to touch the potatoes, to touch the green beans. Do not touch them.
I'm with your brother.
But I do like that when it comes to financial planning, which is if this is your emergency fund and it's at Vanguard and you have this feeling like, oh, the CEO of Lumen says to go buy some, you're going to do a dumb thing like I just did, right? You're going to do something really dumb with that money because it's in a spot. If I hadn't had that $500 just sitting in cash at Schwab, I would have never done that move. I would have never done that. So put it in a place where it is your emergency fund. I think there's some behavioral aspect to this, isn't there?
Yeah. And another lesson is don't let Joe have access to the Stacking Benjamins trading account. So that's also a lesson.
If I did it on behalf of the company, that would be great.
Yeah.
Tina, we can't pay you today because Lumen's down.
Joe, I noticed that the brokerage account now is a 5% owner of Lumen. Anything? I got a feeling, bro. I got a feeling.
This Stacking Benjamins podcast is brought to you by Lumen, not because they're a sponsor, but because we own 10% of the company. That'd be horrible. Thanks for the question, Patrick. You got a question for OG? Head to stackingbenjamins.com/voicemail. And we are
I have a question.
Happy to answer your question.
What does Lumen do, Joe?
Do I have to answer that on air? Do I have to go do a Google search?
He already looks pretty bad for making this investment. Are you trying to make him look worse?
Because I know of a company called Lumen, but I don't think this is the same company.
It is
a telecom company.
Nope, that's not the company I was looking at.
It is Lumen Technologies.
Yep.
And they provide support.
And they make
they provide
hold on, I gotta read their About Us page.
Support for sales, service, products, and billing, and more.
Oh, well, that sounds great.
Yes.
That's the most vague.
We specialize in doing things for people.
Yeah. About the stuff.
With the stuff.
By the way, they're based in Monroe, Louisiana, which is not that far from us here in Texarkana.
I actually think they were one of those many. If you go back far enough, I think they were one of the spinoffs from AT&T divestiture way back when. They've had 7 company names since then, but at one point they were making telecom hardware.
Yeah. I don't think that's what they do now.
How's that working out for everybody these days?
Well, the stock's at
Joe will let us know.
The stock's at $1.60. What do you think? How do you think it's going?
But if it gets to $1.80, you are rich.
Yes, donuts on me, everybody. Hey, time for us to wander out to the back porch, and I'm super excited about this segment for 2 reasons. Number one, Doug, is that actually, OG, you would really like this because Scott Galloway, who was just on the show, love Professor Galloway. He said something very interesting. You know how everybody's worried about AI taking your job, and they've been obsessed with this the past few weeks. Professor Galloway on a stage in Asia just a few days ago, as we recorded this, said AI is not going to take your. He always has a great hot take. This is his hot take, OG. AI is not going to take your job. Somebody who understands AI is going to take your job. What a great freaking quote. And that's 100% true.
I believe that.
AI is not going to take your job. Somebody who gets what's actually going on. So stop being afraid and go learn about it, which is fantastic. More power there. Second thing is I have never been more excited about a movie only because this is a movie that OG Doug will actually like. Yesterday, Cheryl and I went to the theater to catch this flick, which is a co-production. It's made by Guy Ritchie and produced by a guy named Jerry Bruckheimer.
Oh boy.
Gus March Phillips, I have a mission I want you to lead. Thank you, Sergeant.
What's the plan?
To neutralize the German U-boats in the North Atlantic.
We're losing the war. It Hitler is not playing by the rules, so neither are we.
We both know that I'm not very popular with the administration.
The reason they find you unattractive is the very reason I find you attractive.
If I'm to do this, I'll need my own team. You won't like them. They're all... No! Mad.
They'll need to be.
Doug, you were moving with the beat. There's a drum beat all the way through this movie, by the way, and the music, they always have this drum going da 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 as crap is blowing up. There is so much stuff blowing up. There's so many people dying, and it's funny because as Cheryl and I left the theater, we're like, I generally just don't like movies where you just see a bunch of people dying for no reason. Like, it just is not my kind of movie. But when it's Nazis, it's so damn fun. It's
the
so
only thing
great.
acceptable left.
I know. I saw so many Nazis die in the theater yesterday. It was so good. This movie's called The Ministry of Ungentlemanly Warfare. It is supposedly a true story. And by the way, it is based on a true story. However, I have it on fairly good authority that there's zero in this movie that's actually true.
Well, World War II happened.
Exactly. Yes. And there might have been a mission, and there were some guys with these names that had it. There is nothing in this movie that's true. There can't be anything in this movie because it is big ass explosions, cool music happening the whole time. I was on board this movie for the full, I don't even know how many minutes it is. I could look it up. You can go look it up. But man, it was 90 minutes to 2 hours. So damn fun. This movie is the funnest movie I've seen so far this year. Funnest.
Most funner.
Be more funner movie. Oh, gee, this is your kind of movie. I was so excited when I got out of the theater. I'm like, not only did I love this movie, this is because what does OG always say, Doug? What does he always say? Did anything blow up? It's definitively. Yeah.
How much skin is in this
Everything
movie?
blows up.
Everything blows up. The movie is just one gigantic blow up.
Well, we all knew that when you said Bruckheimer.
And Guy Ritchie. I mean, come on.
Yeah, Guy Ritchie's no slouch himself. And then that drum beat that you described, that's totally Guy Ritchie.
Oh, it totally is. Yeah. It's got great music, well set up visuals. Guy Ritchie's also known for these fantastic shots. I mean, what is the TV show that I'm watching? The Gentleman?
Yep.
Just a fantastic visuals in that movie. He knows how to set up shots. He knows how to make them over the top. He knows how to make them funny. There's so much funny in this movie. Like just they're having some ridiculous conversation about something that doesn't matter while people are dying behind them, right? Yeah. It just is so Guy Ritchie. I loved it. The Ministry of Ungentlemanly Warfare is not going to win any award ever, except probably OG's favorite movie of 2024.
Yeah, maybe the box office award.
It is so fun. And it's leaving the box office. I mean, it's been out for a while. So OG, go see it. You got to go see this movie. You won't like this movie. You will love this movie.
Later this week, I'm going to the Blue Angels IMAX.
That's what I thought Joe was going to say.
So good.
Yeah, that's
that
what
looks
I thought.
so
Come
good.
join us. We're doing it on Friday.
You know what?
See how that's how an invite works. Like I just go, hey, I'm doing this fun thing.
Yeah, almost like
I would like you to be there.
Let's pretend like 3 months ago I said, hey, I think I'm going to go to Detroit, Cleveland, and Boston, and why don't you come with me? No, that's not a real invite.
But I want to go to fun places.
It's not a real invite. Yes. I don't think this is a real invite, Doug. I don't think he's really inviting me. He doesn't want me to come.
No, this is the invite where you call somebody and you pray to God you get their voicemail. Or like, and you call them like 15 minutes before you're going.
Oh, I can't make it. I didn't tell you when it was. Oh, sorry. When is it?
Oh,
next Friday. I can't make it.
Yeah, that's right. Exactly. Yes. All right, everybody. Come join me tomorrow in Cleveland, Bookhouse Brewing. Join Doug and I, and Thursday in Detroit, we're going to be at Ferndale Project. But
there are projects in Ferndale? I know Ferndale pretty well. I didn't know they had projects.
Hey, if it comes with beer, I will live in that project.
It's free?
I know. I'm like, free housing, and you're going to feed me barley and hops? Like, that is good. So we're going to be at one of those two places. But anyway, go to stackingbenjamins.com/meetup. And then Friday, we got a table for 20 at the Hub in downtown Kalamazoo. So come join us at the Hub on Friday night. Going to be great. Big thanks to Jim for helping us with that. Big thanks to Carol Ann, who helped us get Faces Brewing for the following Thursday. We will be in Boston, in Malden at Faces Brewing. Hope you guys can join us in one of those four cities. or join OG. Everybody go to which theater are you going to be at watching Blue Angels, OG?
I actually don't know. It's
Here it comes.
I don't. Someone's taking me.
See,
Probably an IMAX.
you just
Yes.
go to your
It's like, what are the IMAXs in Dallas? There's a pretty good bet that we'll be there.
go to an IMAX in the Dallas area and look around. If you see a guy who doesn't want to talk to you,
Yeah.
go up and say
I
hi.
genuinely like talking to people.
Yeah.
But like one at a time.
Speaking of that, we love talking to Doug about what should be on our to-do list. Doug, what's on our to-do list today?
Well, Joe, here's what's stacked up on our to-do list today. First, take some advice from Matt Schulz. By asking just a few more questions and working with credit card phone people, hoteliers, and others, you might upgrade your life for just a few moments of your time and keep those Benjamins in your pocket. Second, take some advice from our headline. Stay invested for the long term. If you chase what's hot now, Lumen, you're likely to underperform in the future. So what's the biggest to-do? Never tell Joe's mom that she should ride in the Memorial Day parade in the back of your El Camino because she looks like she's a battle axe. She will not take it to mean what I meant, which was like she was brave and strong. No. She will make you wash the windows again and again. Thanks to Matt Schulz for joining us today. You can find his book, Ask Questions, Save Money, Make More, How to Take Control of Your Financial Life, wherever books are sold. We'll also include links in our show notes at stackingbenjamins.com. This show is the property of SB Podcasts, LLC, copyright 2024, and is created by Joe Saul-Sehy. Our producer is Karen Repine. Karen and Joe get help from a few of our neighborhood friends. You'll find out about our awesome team at stackingbenjamins.com, along with the show notes and how you can find us on YouTube and all the usual social media spots. Come say hello. Oh yeah, and before I go, not only should you not take advice from these nerds, don't take advice from people you don't know. This show is for entertainment purposes only. Before making any financial decisions, speak with a real financial advisor. I'm Joe's mom's neighbor, Doug, and we'll see you next time back here at the Stacking Benjamins Show.